Hi there. Welcome to another episode of the Cutting Room Floor. This is a segment that lets us dig a little bit deeper and explore a little bit further into a topic that is related to a recent message here at Sunny Slope Church. Last Sunday, we looked at the topic of science and Christianity. And we explored the way that many people today believe that those two disciplines are incompatible with each other. Science and religion cannot peacefully coexist because if you're a person of science and rationality and reason, then there's really no room for faith. And if you're a person of faith, then you might see science as a threat to Christianity or to your faith. And so many people today sort of live as though these two disciplines, these two ideas, have to either be kept separate, or even worse, you have to sort of choose between one or the other. You're a person of science or you're a person of faith, but you can't be both. One of the ways that this objection gets played out is something I didn't really dig into in the message. There just wasn't really enough time, and so I had to sort of leave it on the cutting room floor. So here it is, and that has to do with the question of miracles. Christianity is rooted in miracles. Christianity believes that the incarnation of Jesus is a miraculous event, and they believe that the resurrection of Jesus is a miraculous event. And in between, there are a number of places, there are many places where Jesus performs many miracles. And so integral to the belief of in Jesus and the faith of Christianity is a belief in the presence of miracles. Now, there are many people today who will point to miracles and say that this is proof that Christianity cannot be a valid religion because miracles contradict science, right? The resurrection, someone coming back from the dead, we know that once a person is dead, they don't come back to life again, right? We just, that's a contradiction of the laws of nature. Jesus turning water into wine is a contradiction of the laws of nature. We know that water doesn't have the same properties of wine, and if it's wine, then it's not water. If it's water, it can't be turned into wine. And so in John chapter 2, when Jesus turns the water into wine, many people look at that and say, well, these and many other miracles are examples of why Christianity is fictitious. It might make for a good story, but it can't possibly have happened in that way. And so Christianity's claim to miracles is actually, for many people today, Christianity's claims to miracles are actually that's actually a sign that Christianity is not a true religion. Now, there's a big problem with that line of reasoning, and that is that if you assume that miracles cannot happen because of the laws of science, you are bringing an assumption into that, and that assumption is that God does not exist. So here's what I mean by that. By definition, a miracle is an exception to the laws of nature that requires a supernatural origin, right? So a miracle is an event in which God works in a supernatural way to override the laws of nature, and in the Bible, there's always a purpose for that. It's always meant to point to a greater reality. Now, if you are claiming that miracles cannot happen because miracles contradict science, you're denying the essence of what a miracle is. You're essentially saying a miracle has its origin in God, and therefore it cannot exist. But the unspoken part is because God does not exist. A person is essentially saying, I don't believe in miracles because I don't believe there can be a supernatural source behind the miracles. But the Christian response to that is actually that if miracles exist, miracles are a possibility because God exists. miracles by definition are a reality because the Christian faith believes that there is a God who is a supernatural source. And if there is a supernatural source behind it, and if there is a God behind the miracles, then it would only make sense that this God is powerful enough and able to intervene in the laws of nature and override them for a purpose. And so by their very definition, miracles, they can exist if God exists. Right? God is a supernatural being. He's capable of doing supernatural things, and the presence of miracles actually would then be consistent with that. You would expect to see miraculous events because there's a miraculous God behind them. And if you're claiming that miracles cannot exist because they override the laws of nature, you're bringing your presupposition into that statement. The reason that you believe that miracles can't exist is because you believe that God can't exist, and so you're bringing your own assumptions into that claim in order to make that assertion. And so you have to you're sort of begging the question there, and you have to sort of go back and actually examine your presuppositions, and you have to at least start from a neutral standpoint and say, well, if God does exist, then you should expect miracles to exist. Now, this does not mean that every remarkable event that takes place is in fact a miracle. There's lots of experiences that actually can be explained by natural phenomenon. The most common of those, I think, is what we often call the miracle of birth. A little tangent here. I don't believe birth is a miracle. Birth is when we talk about the miracle of birth, we're talking about a remarkable event, a powerful and moving event, but it's not a miracle. It's something that's part of the laws of nature. And I would say that the fact that the act of giving birth is as powerful and moving as it is, it's a part of creation. It's a part of participating in the creation of life. That itself does point to the existence of God, but it's not a miracle. There are other examples, the sort of the stories of, well, my piece of toast looks like it has the Virgin Mary baked into it and it's a miracle. Well, no, I think usually that's seeing what you want to see. But there are cases, I think, even in modern times, of miraculous healings when, according to all the laws of science and medicine, there should be no explanation for that. And then yet, in spite of all logical and scientific evidence to the contrary, a person is healed. Well, I think it's proper to speak of that as a miracle. And that at least points us to the existence of a transcendent God. So the claim that miracles cannot happen because they contradict science is not really a strong claim against the existence of God, because by definition, a miracle is something that is an exception to the laws of science. And for a miracle to actually be a real thing, it has to do exactly what it is. It's contradicting, or it's making an exception to the laws of nature. And so I think we have to allow for that as a possibility. Thanks for watching this episode of The Cutting Room Floor, and we will see you next time.